My name is Jim Ryan, and I'm the new Instructional Designer here at EWU. My job here is to take a look at the programs, courses, and people from a different point of view, to see how all these Lego pieces fit, and to imagine how I can help put them together differently to make something new and amazing. Welcome to the Play to Learn podcast. Today, I'm meeting with and interviewing Ryan Parrey. He's a senior lecturer at the School of Social Work here at Eastern Washington University, and he's a very good friend of mine that I really enjoy talking to about science fiction, disability access, and all kinds of other things. So sit back, relax, and enjoy. So hi, I'm Jim Ryan here with a Play to Learn podcast, and I'm going to pretend like I don't know who's with me here, which is Ryan Parrey, because we've never met before, and we're not working on another podcast that's completely not related to what I do here at all. So hi.
Hi, Jim. Thanks for having me. This is unexpected.
Yeah, unexpected and, not formal, clearly. We're just hanging out, having a chat like the friends we are.
Oh,
But I did want to get a chance to talk with you because I don't necessarily know that a whole lot of people know about you, as in who you are.
I don't know.
But maybe they do.
Probably not.
But I want to dig deep, Ryan.
Okay.
Where does everything start? And go back to birth.
Let's start. Well, so I'm from Pennsylvania. Technically, I'm from New Jersey.
Mm-hmm.
I lived in New Jersey for 3 years, and then we moved across the river to Pennsylvania.
Mm-hmm.
And then, I don't know, I was born, I almost said 9 months premature. Not quite.
But that would have been really impressive.
Really, yeah. No, but I was, and this is accurate, I was born 4 months premature.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, that's still impressive. Not to sell short 9 months, but like
Right. Now,
4 months.
This is good, but 4 months. I mean, then I've been to like medical oddity museums and seen 4-month-old, 5-month-old fetuses.
Right.
And it's like, oh yeah, that's not really compatible with life.
Oh, not fully cooked.
They say, yeah, yeah. And so, I mean, the story that I was always told, right? My mom's doctor comes in and says, like, oh, I'm sorry, you're having a miscarriage. And leads. And then the nurse came in and said, you know what? We're just going to leave you hooked up to all the machines here. They don't always know. And yeah, no, I was born, I weighed 1.5 pounds. Yeah. Got out of the hospital when I was 6 months old and weighed, I don't know, a newborn weight.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, so I grew up, I knew I had visual impairments. Mm-hmm. But, with glasses by 10, I was regular 20/20 vision and all that. But then I also have hydrocephalus. Now you see, I know better than to dive into diagnostic language and medicalized language, but this is what we do, isn't it?
Yeah, when you're in a family,
Yeah.
or you're personally experiencing these medical issues, you become very familiar with all the terms really.
Yeah. And anyway, my shunt broke and I ended up in the hospital. I've lost most of my vision, 50%, whatever. These medical terms and language and statistics, I value little, but we just don't have other ways of thinking and talking. But it was interesting, like professionally, I remember I majored in English and philosophy, go humanities, in college. And then I did a master's in philosophy. I was doing my master's degree, and I was just living my life, doing my thing. I think one of the reasons I didn't get into my top master's choices was I didn't have a mission, that I wanted to do, that I could articulate clearly, at least not then. But we're sitting there, and we're reading Martin Heidegger, this old German philosopher, and he says something. And I remember, like, I underlined it and highlighted it, and I think I even wrote it down. And I remembered it for a week until the next class. And I said, hey, small seminar class and teacher, Heidegger says this thing about perception. It's something like all normal perception sits on a foundation of abnormal, or the other way around, of perception. Mm-hmm. And I said, well, what is Heidegger saying about me and people, and now I would say, and disabled people who perceive and move and do differently. And my entire class, a bunch of, as far as I know, middle class white dudes were like, oh, he didn't mean that. And so right there, I was like, number one, what is the that you're convinced he didn't mean? And what did he mean? And then what if he did mean that? And so I wrote a little seminar paper and I wrote a second seminar paper and I showed it to my advisor and he goes, I think this is your thesis. And then as we were walking down the street and he goes, hey, I know you want to go into a PhD. You should look into disability studies. This would have been 2000, maybe it was just 2000, thereabouts, 2002. And I'm like, I don't know what that is. And he said, me neither, but I Googled it. And within 2 years, I was in a PhD program in disability studies in Chicago.
Wow.
And, you know, on the first day, met the person that I would get married to 6 years later, even though she said, I don't want to get married, not even to you. And yeah, and so I'm sure that's not where it all starts, but that's where a lot of it starts.
Well, I think there's generally two starts, if not more, to people's lives.
Yeah.
Obviously, when birth is the obvious one, but maybe it's when you come to that a fundamental realization in your life that your life really starts, because that's when you start changing your focus and how you approach things.
Yeah, that's when it becomes your life.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, you kind of take ownership of it instead of just going along for the ride.
Yeah.
So that's where your life really started.
Yeah, I think so. I think so. Because then, I mean, yes. I remember, you know what I think it hit me was between my master's and my PhD, I moved to the Czech Republic for a year, you know, like you do.
Several times I have.
Yeah. Have you?
No, never.
I don't know.
In India, yes. Czech Republic.
Well, so I went to a weekly philosophy reading group. It's Prague. They have to have one. And I went to the first one, and the guy that ran the thing, it was fine. But I was like, wow, I don't know, this guy, I think he's kind of a jerk. And then the next week I showed up early and there was this other person sitting there. And this guy says, hi, my name's JT. I really think Ben is a jerk. What about you? And we became best friends. And we never went back to this place. And here's a good, how about this? Here's another example of that. These are those moments, right? Where you realize, oh, I'm really doing something. This is true. This absolutely happened. Are you ready for this?
Hit me with it.
So it would have been 2005, 4 or 5. It was the year that Hurricane Katrina happened. And I walked into my PhD program very first day. And I don't know, I literally didn't know where I was headed. You're in the building, and I look over in the lobby. There's this self-described 400-pound Black woman who uses a wheelchair. And I see her and she sees me. And she says, hey, my name's Carlos. I'm a troublemaker. What's your name? Are you a troublemaker? And I was just like, well, challenge accepted. And we became really good friends. And it turns out she was best friends with the woman who, amongst other things, I'm married to. And our daughter's middle name is Carlos.
Oh.
Because we both were like, well, obviously. Yeah. Yeah, what about you? Can I ask, what about you? I don't know. This isn't just for TV. I genuinely don't know.
Nobody knows. So initially it was my dad and mom met in Germany, of all places.
Oh.
My dad was in the Air Force, and he was stationed over there. And this was during the time when the Berlin Wall was still up, Cold War was going on. And he has some interesting stories going between East and West Germany.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but not related. So he and my mom met there and got married, and several years later they moved back to Texas, which is where my dad's from, and I was born there. And then within a year, we moved up to Spokane. And so my dad was a dermatologist, got his doctorship. Yeah, MD, when he was in the Air Force.
Okay.
And then he worked at Sacred Heart for a while and then started his own practice.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I grew up here in Spokane, out in 9 Mile, about 15 miles, northwest of Spokane. It was back then. It was kind of out in the boonies. It's still a little bit now, but
It sounds like it should be.
it is. It is a little bit out there in the boonies. Yeah, 9 miles away from civilization.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Okay, really?
Yeah.
Oh,
So,
okay. I just assumed you were from somewhere else.
well, I kind of got a little bit traveled.
Okay. Well, sorry. Yeah. Go on.
So, I went to school in Gonzaga Prep and then Gonzaga University. Got my degree in what was it? It was communication studies in radio and television at the time.
Oh, cool.
And so here's the fun story. I don't know if you know anything about video editing, but they used to do this thing called tape to tape, and it was still tape to tape back then. So we were doing VHS to VHS tape on these big push button machines where you have to
Oh, sure.
go out with this big VHS camcorder and record a bunch of footage, and then go back to the studio, and you'd have to literally fast forward or rewind the entire tape to get to the part that you wanted to take the source from, the edit from,
Okay.
and then put it to the new tape that was gonna be the edited tape.
I mean, you could have to cut things, but
Yeah, this was
basically,
it was still like play record like with those
Yeah.
old cassette tapes. Basically,
you were recording off the radio, but it was your previously
right.
recorded material.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, wow. Oh, is that when they say like, oh, such and such has been recorded in front of a live studio audience, and then the show you see has obviously been edited?
Yeah, more or less. Yeah.
Yeah, sort of.
Yeah, I mean, it's still the same kind of thing with digital today, except it's not on a tape and it's immediate. But my final project during there was
Yeah.
was a big departure from that because well, you're a big sci-fi guy,
Yep.
right? So you were a big fan of Star Wars back in the day when it was first coming out, right? 90, 95, 97, when the new
Oh, when the new prequel.
yeah, the prequels came out. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I was justifiably disappointed like everyone else. Mm-hmm.
So me and my buddies were huge Star Wars fans, and we wanted to make a kind of like a fan film,
Yeah.
Star Wars fan film, which some people were doing back at the time, but you can't really do that on a tape. And so we got a hold of a copy of like Premiere, like the first Premiere one, Premiere one or two, like one of the first ones, and had to learn like from the ground up how to edit non-linearly, which is like what I do every day now. But
Yeah.
at the time, nobody else was really doing that.
Oh, because literally meaning like just simply in order.
Yeah, because when you're editing from tape, it's a linear tape from everything you've recorded. But once you've digitized it, now you can easily go through and pick out the little pieces that you want to instead of rewinding and fast forwarding and finding the exact spot. It's just cut, mirrored over.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it was a really great, revolutionary tool at the time. And so that allowed us to not just edit, but also do special effects like the lightsabers and stuff.
Oh, cool. Oh, so now so you turned this into your final project.
Yeah, yeah. So when it turned that into my final project, but the guy who was funding the whole thing, because he was like buying the hard drives, and all that stuff, he wrote the script, and he was kind of a controlling kind of a guy. So I never actually got to release any of the stuff that I recorded and edited. But I got to show my professor. He was like, "Oh, okay, that's cool." And then, here's your grade. You passed.
Yeah. Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
I took technically, if you look at my transcript, I have a certificate in filmmaking.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, I didn't do a good. I won't claim to do a good job or to know what I'm doing, but they let me do it 2 or 3 times. Yeah, but my professor, I always felt like this person's name was a name, like you would know it if you knew.
Sure, sure.
But I don't know that that's the case at all.
Mhm.
But I learned filmmaking from a guy named Gary Adelstein.
That does sound familiar.
Who I guess he famously did. I went to college in Reading, Pennsylvania, and I guess he did a documentary or at least a film about the factories and maybe meatpacking, maybe
Oh, okay.
in Reading.
Sure.
And I don't know. All I remember is I really liked the things he made us watch and the things he helped us make. And I do remember another student, in the editing bays, complaining like, Gary just wants us all to be these experimental filmmakers. I want to get a job. And I was like, I'm not here for that either way.
Right.
But this stuff is more fun.
But that whole experience and those genres really familiarized you with the importance of storytelling.
I think so. Yes.
And see, I don't know, maybe we should do like a little bit of your story and a little bit of my story and see how we can weave them together because I'm seeing some parallels here because then I know that you're a big fan of comedy and comedians.
Yep.
So how did that start out?
I think well, first of all, because I have to say this whenever storytelling gets around, this is a famously Indigenous Canadian author, Thomas King, famously says that the truth about stories is that that is all we are. And so here's one about comedy. I don't know. I hadn't thought about it, but now that you've asked me, I remembered in 6th grade. So however you are in 6th grade, we had a talent show.
Mm-hmm.
And I signed up to do a stand-up routine.
Get out of here in 6th. All right.
Yeah. And I didn't, having said that, it might have been, no. It's absolutely 6th grade. And to be fair, it was all stolen material. I was absolutely the joy thief because I didn't know you couldn't do that.
Right.
But at least I stole different jokes from different people. I was like, oh, here's this, and it was all whatever. But I mean, I just liked it, and I liked the. So there was this one joke that, again, I don't know whose joke it is, but I know I told it because. So the joke goes like this: it says, it was the 80s or 90s, so of course it began. Did you ever notice? So he goes, I should find out. But the joke is, did you ever notice how at the grocery store they'll have big signs for lost pets? And it's like, lost, 200-pound German Shepherd named Bill. And do they really think that I'm going to be walking down the street, see a 200-pound German Shepherd coming my way, no leash, and I'm going to take the time and say, Bill? And I'll tell you, I did the little stand-up after the thing, and then I got really, remember I have hydrocephalus. I have a shunt that takes care of that for me, and it broke.
Oh no.
And it broke for a month, and then it took a month to fix it. So I was in the hospital, out of the hospital, not going to school, all this stuff. But my neighbor was like, oh, he told me, he's like, yeah. So I told him in school, like, oh, no, Ryan's not around because she's real sick and this and that. And maybe we don't know who that is. Ryan who? And he goes, you remember, raised eyebrows, Bill? Oh, no, Bill is sick. Oh, no. He's the best or not. He's the best about, no, they didn't say that. But they remember, whoever they were, I don't know.
Right.
And you know what it was Bob, to be fair. The name is Bob.
I mean, the name doesn't matter, but it's, yeah.
But, and then I'm not kidding, 30 years later, within the last 15 years, I was sitting at home on Facebook and somebody sent me a private message that just said, ellipsis, Bob? Question mark? And I'm like, are you talking about that joke I said at a stand-up comedy thing at a elementary school comedy show in 1992? He was.
Wow.
Yeah.
Look how powerful that is.
Right? But and I think that's that's what I like about comedy and stories in general, right? Both are great ways to point out what we're already doing and how we think about things, but then they pack that punch, right? And if it lands, you remember it 30 years later. People, oh, I don't remember who said it, but they said this.
Mm-hmm.
And, yeah. Do you like stories and comedy?
Yeah, I love comedy. I've loved comedy ever since I was a kid. Some of my earlier memories would be, do you remember like USA channel, Up All Night? Yeah. So they'd be Up All Night with Gilbert Gottfried, and he would just annihilate you with like these hilarious bits while he's hosting these, old classic horror movies and whatnot. And it was like a master class in comedy. I don't think Gilbert Gottfried gets enough credit for what he was able to do at the time because his routines, his ability to pause and his emphasis and his voice
Yeah.
and just his timing, everything was just so amazing. And you'd watch that and like the VH1 stand up spotlight, I think back at the time where where is it? Was it Rosie? Not Rosie O'Donnell. Yeah, maybe it was Rosie O'Donnell and like Ellen. That was when they first got up there and we're doing stand up comedy. And then I remember In Living Color,
Yeah.
like the whole group of In Living Color, and even still going today, like those people who started back then
Oh yeah.
are some of the biggest, like Jim Carrey.
Jim Carrey is he doesn't need to work as far as I know.
No, yeah, he's 20, 30 million every single film he does.
Yeah.
Right.
That's just he doesn't get out of bed for less than $20 million.
Yeah. And like the Wayans brothers.
Yeah.
And they did like those scary movies.
Right.
And
That
all
was,
that stuff back.
and they're I'm sure they're coming back.
Yeah, the newest
So
scary movie.
that set up the whole genre. And
Yeah.
yeah, because well, isn't it and doesn't that tap into something? I was just have you seen the new Mel Brooks documentary?
I need to. I haven't, but I love because I grew up on all of his movies.
Yeah. Well, I watched the first episode. I think it's in episodes. I watched part one and most of part two, and part one doesn't even get to movies, just a little bit. But then part two was like, oh, all these movies, and the name of the special is the 100-year-old man or the 99-year-old man because he is 99 years old now.
Boy, he's on the edge.
Yeah.
And Spaceballs is still going to come in.
And it's still going. Yes. It's finally happening.
It's finally happening. Yeah.
Whether it should, we'll see.
Yeah.
But that stuff, like that is comedy is just stories.
But it's fearless stories. Real comedy is fearless. And that's the part that I think makes a lot of people uncomfortable because there's tactful and tasteful ways of doing things.
Yeah.
And then there's obviously people doing things for shock factor, but not being afraid to try pushing the edge because making people uncomfortable is one of the things that gets people to laugh the hardest.
Yeah.
Have you ever noticed that?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
And I'm sure you've seen your share of live comedy, right?
Yeah, not as much as I'd like, but yeah.
And you've obviously been up on stage.
Well, that one time.
That one time. So I had one time. There was this. There's a time in Spokane where there's the Bayou Brewing Company. They have this little auditorium, and they'd have comedy nights, on like Fridays or Wednesdays or something like that. So when I was in college, I'd go there, and I learned one of the very most valuable lessons when it comes to comedy and public speaking is that once you get on stage and you completely lose it, it feels like absolute death. It is the worst feeling in the entire world. I tried to go up and tell a joke, and I forgot it midway through, and you could see my eyes get wide. I started breaking out in sweat, and I just started mumbling, and I walked off the stage, and it was brutal. Oh, I felt it in my soul. Yeah. And it was funny because the comedians kind of set you up. They're like, "Yeah, come on up stage. It's really easy to tell a joke." So they knew what they were doing.
Get fun for that.
It is, and that's the beauty of it. Is that comedians are absolutely masters at Not I don't want to say manipulation, but drawing people into believing something.
Well, it's just like we just helped me record that paper,
Right.
and that's about that atmosphere. That's what real comedy is. It's setting up and then changing that atmosphere. It matters what you say and how you say it, but it's how is it felt about, and let's change that. And so, like in your case, right? Well, how do we feel about some random guy getting up on stage? We have our feelings, and then he fumbled.
Yeah.
I mean, if you had done that and killed, I mean, you might have felt great.
Yeah.
But the audience wouldn't they wouldn't be like, oh, remember the time that guy told a good joke?
Right. Yeah. Nobody will remember because they're going there to see professional comedians who go up there all the time, and they've been doing this. And I'm sure, like, it's got to be like the most brutal process.
Yeah. I've heard a lot of comedians talk about that. And no one has ever said, you know what? I went onto my first stage on an open mic and I knocked it out of the park and I've never looked back. That doesn't happen. But assume you have to learn that.
Right.
And, well, when I lived in the Czech Republic and taught English, I didn't realize this till 10 years later. But I was way back when I was applying for the job I have now. I was like, wait a minute, I can teach a lot of people different. I'm good at teaching whoever shows up. And that's exactly because my job in the Czech Republic, where I worked, shout out Willie Watson's School of English. And basically, the students paid $40 a month to come to as many classes as they wanted to.
Oh, wow.
So I would show up between 6 and 8 or 8 and 9 or whatever it was on a Tuesday and a Thursday, and I would teach English to whoever showed up.
Wow.
We had a room, big conference table size room, and you could have the guy from the Ukraine who knows 3 words of English and somebody else who's been studying further and this and that, and you just never knew, and you had to deliver. So now when I walk into a class, I'll tell the students, I'm like, listen, they'll say, why have we spent so much time on this one idea? And I've said, because you got it right away. 3 people on the other side of the room, they didn't, and I can tell. And I need to tell that story differently.
Right.
To get them so that they understand it. If you're bored, I really can't help you. I have to teach everybody. Everybody has to learn 80%, right?
Right.
And just like with comedy, I would assume not everybody's going to think you're the funniest.
Right.
My mom was in town. We watched Sebastian Maniscalco. Do you know him?
No.
He's okay. I watched all 5 of his specials in like 4 days. And you know what he is? He reminds me a lot of Dane Cook.
Okay.
And a little bit of Jim Carrey. He's very physical.
Okay.
At least for parts of it. So he's moving all around and jumping and all of this.
Right.
And I was thinking, do I like him? Is he actually funny? Is he saying funny things, or is it but the look on his face? And a lot of times for him, it's the look on his face.
Right.
And that's okay. I like other kinds of humor.
It's like flavors.
Yeah.
People gravitate toward whichever flavor that really does speak to them.
Yeah.
I know when I moved down to LA and I was working down there on some different shows and whatnot, I try and go to the Comedy Store
Nice.
as often as I could.
Oh, that'd be fun.
There's some epic times that I went there, and then there's the ones where I was like, oh my God, I hate being in this room right now. And that was Andrew Dice Clay. And the primary reason was, when you go to those open mic nights, you never know who's going to show up. And my parents happen to be in town visiting, and I say, hey, let's go down to the Comedy Store. It'll be fun. We'll see some fun acts down there. Sure. And then Andrew Dice Clay comes on.
And he's at this when he is Andrew Dice.
Yeah, well, he is Andrew Dice Clay. And I am just like, oh God, get me out of here. Get me out of here. And he did his thing. And
your mom laughed?
No. But it was embarrassing.
Yeah.
But then after you put that aside and go back and actually watch the performance, you see what made him a good performer. How much of his presence, how much of his, I'd just say authority over the stage there was, because you wanted to leave, but you couldn't because you had a fear just from his presence.
Yeah.
And so as much as, I disliked his act so much, there is a power there that he was able to exert on the audience. And I think that all comedians in some way or form have some sort of force that they are able to exert on the audience one way or the other, but you can clearly see that fear and like, that machismo, that aggressiveness was his power over the audience.
Buckles up.
Yeah.
I mean, he's tall, right? I can't remember what he looks like back then. That's that atmosphere. That's that paper I'm working on, right? It's comedians are masters in at least good ones, right, are masters in that atmosphere management. You're gonna feel this way now, and then I'm gonna tell you to feel a different way. And sometimes we love it, and sometimes we don't.
Yeah.
And I mean, the problem is when they don't get you. That's that failure, right? When you can't do that, and everyone expects it. And like, oh, you're just saying words. That's not anything. That's no good.
Yeah. It's like the audience is the car and the comedian is the driver.
And the heckler is the guy on the sidewalk saying, "No, you're not.
Yeah.
You're not doing it." We went and sat out and celebrated my friend Randall's PhD defense, and we went to this like bar in Chicago, and it was an open mic night,
Mm-hmm.
and it was a small place, and there's a comedian up there, and they're obviously this is their second or third or fourth time, right? And they're up there, and they're and it's the middle of the day. It is not a nighttime show. They go, you know what's funny? And my friend Randall says very loudly, "Not you."
Oh, man. Ow.
Yes, right?
Yeah.
But now imagine if you had said that to Andrew Dice Clay. Ever. Let
Oh,
alone before in the middle of Little Miss Muffet.
Yeah.
There. You would never.
No.
And I think that demonstrates exactly that, right? Like, good, bad, comedian worthy of the name, right? Even if they, well, do you know who's great? You know, Emo Phillips.
Yeah.
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 And
Call me Mr. Butterfingers from UHF.
that's right.
Went character.
Yes. And you're not going to be scared of him.
No.
You're not worried about him. You might be worried for him. Are you okay? Do you know you're on the stage, sir? But he's also a great performer.
Right.
You might not love it, but you get it. And I think the criticisms might be, oh, he's like this. Well, he's not. He's not like this. This is his act. And, I think that's what I hear a lot of, especially we're lucky enough. So we're going to have Disability Pride Days in a few weeks, at the end of April here. And we're going to hopefully, if it all works out, have a stand-up comedian, Desiree Walsh. And I want to ask her, I don't know exactly how long she's been performing. We should have you interview her.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be great if she's going to be on Zoom, but I mean, if she wants to hang around, sure.
It would be interesting to hear from somebody who's been in the game for 5 years, who can still remember that transition period when they learned how to do what they do, as opposed to just how to do anything.
Right.
I know Amy Schumer has talked about, she realized that she didn't have to be like a man performer,
Right.
but she also didn't have to be like the other women,
Right.
whatever that means. And then she figured out her voice, and it's a choice. It's on purpose. Versus like Tig Notaro. I'm just saying comedians I like. Tig Notaro.
Sorry?
Tig Notaro.
I'm not sure I'm familiar with that.
Oh, okay. Well, let's stop recording and go watch some Tig. No, she's a comedian. She became really popular in 2010. Basically, she was about to go out on stage for a big deal show in New York, and got a phone call. You got breast cancer.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
And then, okay, Tig, that's 10 minutes. Something like that, very like the same day. And so she went out on stage and said, among other things, she was like, "Hi, everybody, thanks for coming. I have cancer. Great to be here. I have cancer." And did her show.
Right.
And Louis C.K.
Louis C.K.
He was in the audience, and he like tweeted about it, and that's where she like skyrocketed.
Wow.
And she's on right now. She's on Star Trek, Starfleet Academy.
Oh, wow.
And her whole performance style is just so different than other people, but it depends on not just timing, but knowing the timing. Knowing at one point she got this one joke that's all about repetition of a particular phrase. And at one point she said the phrase 2 times, and it's time for the third time, and she doesn't say it. And the audience yells that thing out. And she's like, yeah, that's right. So she doesn't even need to say it. The audience is so bought in. It reminds me, speaking of stories, now I'm just all over the place. That reminds me of, there was a great TED Talk by the author of America, the Nigerian author. The TED Talk is called The Danger of a Single Story. And that is also what gets things started with me with disability studies. Literally, we watched that on day one of the intro class. And this author talks about the danger of the single story. And she says, oh, the story of America is very different if it starts with indigenous people who have been living there for thousands of years and then versus the colonists showed up.
Right.
And with, I don't know, I think that's absolutely, we see that's really about comedy and stories so much, especially comedy, because you see they know that. They know that they have that power and skill, and they use it.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't know. And hopefully, right, give you a different story. I always say, right, it's what I like about that moment in my dissertation, I called it the pause because I didn't have a better word for it. But that pause, whether it's around disability or in jokes, right, that pause between, oh, there's more here than I expected. And that makes me think and feel ways. And in the case of comedy, I'm supposed to laugh. And other times we don't know what we're supposed to do, so we don't know. And I'm saying other filler words because I forgot where I was going. But that's what that is, right? Aren't comedians and good storytellers showing us, insisting there's always more than one story? Whether it's about disability or women these days or politics, right? There's always more than one story, and that's great. Years ago, I wrote about this previously. Years ago, here on campus, I was damping for a few minutes at the beginning of an event, and I explained the social model of disability, which is basically, look, there's a distinction, but people have impairments, but disability is produced in the world. And one of the students in the room, not in my class, but from a different class, he said out loud, "Come on."
Oh, jeez.
Uh-huh. And I like, what? What's that? Oh, come on, just because you're saying it doesn't make it so. I'm like, well, right, but you saying it's not true doesn't make it so. Also, and I ended up writing about that moment. And I think what he meant by "come on" was, I don't want to hear this story.
Right.
And I would argue, why? Because it's too hard? Because it feels so different?
Because it's uncomfortable.
Because it's uncomfortable. Exactly. And so come on, let's get through this. Like Andrew Dice Clay.
Right.
Right. Now, it's not like he's got deep wisdom to reveal, but I don't know. I haven't seen his work in a long time, but
It hasn't changed.
okay. But it's that same kind of like, I think that's just that discomfort. And sometimes you can use that discomfort like a tool, right? Like a chisel or a mirror, right? And hold it up or shape or reshape what the stories. Or sometimes you just kind of use it like a hammer. I'm telling this story, and it's uncomfortable, tough.
Yeah,
It's different.
And I got another interesting comedy story related to that. And comedy has changed quite a bit from when we were young till now. I mean, the styles, the characters, the caricatures, but also the environment around comedy has changed a lot. And I specifically remember that comedy in colleges died in 2010, 2011.
That's what I've heard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I watched it happen live.
You did?
Yes.
You watched the time when it happened?
Yes, the exact time. I was at Gonzaga University, and I was doing event support at the time. And it happened to be like a comedy show. And so like my wife and I went there to watch this guy do comedy in this common area. And he was going through his routine, and he was doing some edgy stuff from here and there. And the person in charge of the building at the time came over 3 separate times and stopped him and said, "You can't say that here." And then once she started doing it, there were other students that would come up and said, "You can't say that here." And then by the end, this guy was just shaking because he didn't know what he could say that wouldn't get him stopped in the middle of his routine.
Yeah, because the routine is all about timing, too.
Yeah, so he was completely lost, and so when he came up, I was like, "You've just got to ignore everything that happened out there. This is not normal. You were fine. I'm sorry that this happened." And he was thankful for that. He gave me a shirt for some reason. But yeah, but the whole point being is that during that period of time, all comedy at colleges pretty much stopped for the same reasons.
Hmm.
Because either students would have an issue with what was being said, or the people who are in charge of the events would have issues with what was being said. And it doesn't matter who. You can go and try and find a comic who will work at college. They won't do it anymore because
Mm.
it's a hostile environment to comedy, to them. Which I think is, I mean, it's different for you having a specific event, and
Right.
and I think it's appropriate and everything, but I mean, all comedy kind of just stopped happening in the colleges, and it went back to just primarily being done at bars and comedy venues and whatnot. And it was a different kind of influence
Yeah.
that, I mean, it feels dangerous a little bit because obviously there's some stuff that should be, hey, you know what, that's just
Well, what's the point of it here, right? If I only feel comfortable talking about disability-related stuff,
right,
but if you're gonna use the R word,
right,
okay, you don't need to tell a different joke, right? If "Ha ha, those people are funny" is the point,
right.
well, let's not.
Yeah, if
We
it's
don't
for
do
being
that.
mean, if it's just to attack people,
Right.
then that makes sense. It's being hateful, it's just being edgy to be edgy. But if it's everything, like everybody is afraid to do their bits.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, because obviously, we haven't used the word yet, but this is also at the time of cancel culture.
Sure.
And this will be safe. Like Ricky Gervais, he has jokes about he is who he is and he says what he says.
Yeah.
But in his most recent special, he talks about it. Like, "Oh, they tried to cancel me, or I got canceled for this." And he makes this whole joke about it. And yeah, I feel like I'm not saying everyone should say whatever. Because the point of comedy isn't to say whatever,
Right.
it's to make a point. It's to do
Right.
this word.
Yes.
And yeah, I think it's when we try to say we don't want to hear that story, then there's something there. There's it, and you know what? Doing the work of thinking about it and figuring out is not funny,
No, it's hard and it is scary.
and it is scary. And I could be like, heck, I've got classes coming up, and I know particular people that are going to be in the room, and I'm thinking about that. And I think, okay, but if you're a comedian showing up to a random college gig, you don't know who's going to be there. And if you say, and then I said to Martha, you shouldn't, and maybe something, you shouldn't be saying anything to Martha. Well, wait, no. You really need to let me finish my set.
Right.
You can't interrupt me. Certainly midstream you can, but when you interrupt mid sentence like that, it's devastating. Not only to what you're trying to do, but to the point of what you do.
Yeah.
You can't do that. Like, I talk about things in classes sometimes where I'll say, "Hey, listen, we come into this room. The point of being here is to think about things. You will have thoughts, feelings, opinions. This isn't about that stuff. This is about arguments and analysis and this and that and the other thing." And I'm still worried. So, just a few months ago, yeah, we were talking about the way that race is reflected and constructed in media. And so we had this heavy example that we went through it. And then I switched to the next slide. And I'm like, oh, shucks, it's blackface. And it's super important. Like, you have to talk about it.
Yeah.
And on the screen were some performers in blackface.
Right.
So I physically put myself in the way of that.
Right.
And in the moment, I said, guys, this has been a heavy day already. This is another 10 pounds. Like, let's just We know what we're talking about. We don't need to see it.
Right.
And we moved on, and I thought it was okay. But I'll tell you this: at the end of the quarter, there was evaluations, and let's say there were 10 evaluations. There weren't, but let's say there were. One of them absolutely said this class was all opinions and blah blah blah, and another person said it wasn't strong enough. One day he even blocked a picture of people in blackface. I think people should have to sit with that. Now, I do too.
Right.
But that day, it was, we'd already done the heavy lifting.
Right.
That's important too. But if you're just sitting there with a click. If you're just, I'm imagining the event space and imagining whoever it is sitting there with a check boxes and say, you can't say this.
Right.
Well, I wish you had told me that sooner.
Right.
Before I was on stage
Right.
doing it. John Mulaney has a joke about this where he says he was going to do a show. I don't know where or what, but it was a TV appearance, and he says he used the M word for little people, and he said you can't say that word, and I said it's like the N word but about little people,
Right.
and Mulaney says, no, it's not, because you won't even say the N word, whereas you're saying this other word. It's not the same.
Right.
And I think there's something to that.
Well, I mean, the parallels between education and what it is to be in a classroom and being an audience member or being a comedian, they're very close parallels because both involve the audience members having to be uncomfortable at some point with what is being talked about. And then if the comedian or the teacher is doing things right, they'll turn it around and make it so that it's identifiable, so that people can identify with that uncomfortable content and it'll be less of a burdensome kind of a situation.
And to be clear, I don't know who listens to this, but
I think there's 15 people.
Hey, guys, if somebody were to say, college shouldn't be about that, college should be about math and science, and those things are great, especially at the Regents Polytechnic.
Right? Eastern Washington University.
Yeah.
0.26 trademark.
Yeah. We go Eags. That's that. Well, I genuinely do like the school. But anyway, my point is that discomfort can also be produced by you not knowing how to calculate a sum or what the biology of a cell is. That's called when it's math and science, that's called learning. When it's humanities, oh, it's just opinion. No. It's something that you don't know or you've never heard about. And now I'm going to teach you about it. That's just called learning. And life.
If you can't learn how to deal with discomfort, if you can't overcome it, how are you going to be able to exist in the world?
Do anything?
All of life is about learning how to deal with these challenges, whether they make you feel uncomfortable or not, and learning how to reframe it into something that can be overcome.
Yeah. When I finished grad school, it took me longer than I wanted it to. It definitely took me longer than my wife wanted it to. But I was done. I did it. And about 3 months later, I said to myself and out loud, I said, you know what? I need to do something where it's okay to be bad at it and to not have the right answer. Because grad schools all have the right answer or act like it. And I started learning the piano. And I still am. I'm no virtuoso. I'm no expert at all. But I know more than I did 10 years ago. And similarly with learning Italian in the last year, I'm picking things up. I'm making absolute progress. I'm never going to speak fluent Italian. I'm never going to be the best piano player in the world. And nobody expects it. So now what I should do is just be that. And that'll really show them.
Yeah, right? That's the underdog story that comes from behind and just blows everybody away.
But to go back to that, that's that. It's interesting. It's a tension. It's a pressure. I think we definitely see it in higher schooling stuff. Right? You got to be right. There's no time for a weird, uncomfortable story. Just shut up and give me the right answer. Versus an actual learning environment.
Right.
where if I was like, okay, kids, how do you calculate do you know the answer to this? How do you calculate the mass of a sphere?
It's got to be something with pi and radius and diameter.
Sure. Also, somebody could do, you're making a face like you're uncomfortable.
Yeah,
With not,
I did not do well in math.
but right, if I ask you, how do you calculate what did I say, the mass of a sphere?
Right.
And you say, don't ask me that. You can't even ask me that.
Yeah, that just shuts down.
We're done.
Yeah.
I guess we're done here, right?
Right.
I mean, I do think that's a real struggle, right? And I think students are uncomfortable with the vulnerability of saying, I don't know this, even to themselves. And if you can't say, I don't know this, then you can't learn the right way or another way or whatever it is. I mean, it's like, I think you're interested in like technology innovation.
Oh, yeah.
If we were just like, nah, we're good. Horses, listen, horses are all we need.
Right.
Shut up about it.
Exactly.
We'd still be riding horses all the time exclusively. And right?
Mm-hmm.
If we were supposed to fly in the air, we'd have put wings on horses.
Yeah.
And that would have been it.
Yeah.
And
Everybody gets a pony Pegasus. Yeah.
you know, it sounds lovely. And it's clear that's not what we do.
Yeah.
When the people because I mean, obviously Pythagoras was at some point a dumb kid.
Yeah.
And was like, shoot, I want to know more. Oh, I'm learning more. I'm going to go play, I don't know, Pythagoras' backstory.
Yeah.
But, you know, well, like you and me, right? We know what we know now, but that isn't what we had to learn that.
Yeah.
We have to be, I've started learning Italian over the last year. I never said, shut up, book. I mean, I probably did, but not.
Dumb Italian book.
I don't know. You don't know. I'm uncomfortable with that.
Yeah.
Now, sometimes, right? Like, the pronunciation, I don't want to say in public and whatever. But I don't know. You know, I wonder if a lot of the stuff that we're taught, I wonder if a lot of the real stuff that we deal with, right, is that some version of, I don't know what that's all about. I'm not familiar with that. And it's not okay to learn new things.
Yeah. And, this is going to be a little transition because I think it's natural. And that attitude, maybe it's Luddite or just very wanting to remain safe and ignorant. If people sometimes would associate those two things together, you and I both have a big love of science fiction.
Mm-hmm.
And if anything that science fiction does is it's very inspirational in that here is this amazing future and this amazing technology that they're using in this future that if we could just imagine it and put our minds towards coming up with some of these fantastical ideas, maybe we could achieve that. And that's one thing that science fiction really did for me.
Yeah.
So, like, growing up, I watched a little bit of Star Trek, the original series. It was on the afternoons around 3 p.m. after I got home from school.
That's how they get you.
That's how they get you. And it wasn't something I was super interested in until Star Trek The Next Generation came out.
Mm-hmm.
And when that came out, it was a whole new ball game. Like, it felt like the old Star Trek, it felt kind of goofy.
It looks like it was shot in the 70s.
Yeah, right. But then when Next Generation came along, it was something entirely new and different and interesting and amazing. And there were really interesting characters that had these depth to them. It had people from all different types of alien and human races working together, fighting each other, finding themselves in these different situations that they had to use logic and reason and the technology that they had as tools to get through those challenges.
Yeah.
And I think you probably have that same kind of kinship towards that science fiction type of stuff yourself.
Yeah, I remember playing basically The Floor is Lava in my living room and stopping to watch an episode of TNG because I realized it was on because it's syndicated, right? I'm like, wait, if I put the TV on at 50, in 10 minutes, it's going to come on. And it has to have been a season 2 episode. I don't remember, but I do remember paying attention. And and you watch that, and it's oh, it's the future and this and that, but it's never, Picard. They're like, well, Darmok on Jalad, the Darmok episode, right?
Yeah.
They what doesn't happen is they get beamed down to the planet and they speak different languages, and Picard just says, "Well, f you, shut up again,
Yeah.
shut up. I'm gonna go over here. I don't know what you're saying. Speak English." No, he admits, I don't know what you're saying. I'd like to. I guess I have to learn. Let's figure it out. And that's the episode, right?
Yeah.
It's not every episode, but it's that willingness to learn. In other ones, right? They say, well, they have the transporter, they have the replicator. I love the episodes where they're like, here's the guy who invented the transporter. Or here's a new warp technology. Let's try it out. Oh, is it a metaphor for
Like the nuclear arms race or
the
something?
nuclear arms race with the
Yeah.
with the nuclear vessels, right? You have to be careful. Yeah, right. But they're not just saying like, hey, we have all this stuff. Let's go. They're being being accountable for it. Like the fact is, yeah, if you had a replicator technology, you could make anything you wanted at any time for free.
Yeah.
You wouldn't have money anymore.
Yeah.
On what principles and practices do you base your society then?
And they'd also demonstrate themselves being uncomfortable. My favorite example of that is when they get transported to this world where it's Robin Hood, and Worf comes out as little John. Captain, I must protest. I am not a merry man.
Yes.
Best line ever. Oh my God. And I feel like those science fiction stories and many other similar IPs like it really brought people together in a community that hadn't really come together before. And I know from personal experience, because when that was going on, me and my friends in high school, I used to play around in the theater a bit, and I made two really good friends, and so we really loved Star Trek. And it was after Star Trek we became really close, and we were just doing everything together. Particularly this friend I have, his name was Mike Show. And he had some physical challenges. Had some hand, deformation issues. And he had a lot of migraine headaches that were really, really serious. And we were getting ready for, what was it, Deep Space Nine, because that was about to premiere. And it was around October 3rd in 1997 when he was in pain for so long. And he was just so frustrated. And I remember I was walking in the hallway, and he had not broken out, but he ran out of his classroom
Oh.
in a fit of anger. And I think that's kind of what he planned to do. And I saw him and I waved and I said, "Hey, so are you okay? We were gonna get ready to go to a Halloween thing together."
Yeah.
And he looked at me and then he ran off. And I didn't really understand what had happened. And then next day, we found out that he'd taken his car out to the middle of nowhere and then ran a hose from the exhaust into the cab.
Oh no. I'm awful. I'm sorry.
Well, I mean, it's fine. But it was one of those things where even how much pain he was going through, he could still find joy with us together as a group,
Yeah.
playing and imagining this wonderful future where all these cool things could happen. And it's that feeling of friendship and loss centered around this concept of what the future could be is just kind of one of those things that stuck with me for so long.
Yeah.
Like, I always get choked up thinking about it because
You can hear it.
yeah, because he was such a great friend, and I wish that he could have come along to see all the wonderful things that has happened since then.
You'll never believe, hey, there's a wormhole.
Yeah.
And yeah. There's this great author, Alison Kafer, author, scholar. And she got this book, Feminist Queer Crip. And it's a few years old now, but it's still great. And she writes about movies and I guess sci-fi. And she says we can look at science fiction to see how we imagine the future. And often that is a future without disability or disabled people. I think Star Trek does a great job, and intentionally so, of avoiding as much as possible, hopefully, that, right? We know Geordi.
Yeah, Geordi, he was blind.
He was blind, but he was named after a blind fan.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think named Geordi something, or maybe named LaForge. I don't. One or the other is a real person's name.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was just a fan of the show that wrote to Gene Roddenberry at some point and said, "Hey, I'm a blind guy, and I like your show." But you look at not countless, but many episodes of Star Trek across the different series and say, "Oh, well, here's disability or even depression." I think these days, with the current shows, I'm sure chronic pain, things like that. And though they do exist, and they're not fixed. Not look, George is still blind.
Yeah.
He's got a piece of assistive technology. Yeah. Great. And yeah, that might not be the exact name, but it's a Deep Space Nine episode where a woman comes from a planet where they have more gravity. So she's on the gravity of, or maybe less gravity.
Right.
So in Deep Space Nine, she's effectively disabled.
Right.
And guess what? The station isn't accessible.
Right.
And so they address that. And with this, yeah, it's there's so much more to have seen. I mean, they're still making Star Trek stuff.
And that actually reminds me of a story from James Doohan, the guy who played Scotty.
Yeah.
He had a story of where a fan wrote into him and they said, they were going to kill themselves. Right. And so he wrote them back regularly and said, I expect, and I think they met him at one of the cons, and he says, I am going to see you at the next con. You are going to be there, and we are going to shake hands, and I'm going to give you a big hug.
Wow.
And he did that over and over and over again. And the person obviously was struggling through a lot, but they were able to make it a lot. And he ended up saving that person's life.
See?
Because of Star Trek, because of who he was, too. What an amazing guy.
Yeah. To think, hey, I'll try this. Because he could have been like, he could have written and said, I'm so sorry to hear about that, Steve.
Yeah.
Bye.
Right. Yeah.
All the best.
Yep. Yeah.
But no, to put, well, you know what it is? To put yourself in this other person's story is what he did.
Yeah.
It sounds like.
Yeah.
And yeah, I never heard of fans of Westerns doing stuff like that.
Right, exactly. But it speaks to the power of inspiration. Like, that's what inspiration can do, whether it's through stories like science fiction or in the classroom. I'm sure you've had your share of times in the classroom where you felt inspired and you were like, wow, that's amazing. I want to go do something, even though it's uncomfortable, like learning how to play piano or like speaking Italian. There was that inspirational element that pulled you towards it. And despite the uncomfortability, that you were willing to fight through to get there.
You know what's interesting is you've just reminded me about this, and I don't know if I ever mentioned it to you. It's not a big thing, but no. So I've been learning. I know because in addition to reading books, I also use Duolingo. I've been using it for exactly 280. I'm 5 days away from 200 days. So this is still very new. Last summer, 70 days into learning Italian, my daughter and I were at a park downtown, and I heard these two women, and they had kids with them, and one of them said in Italian, should we get out of here? And the other one said, yeah, let's get out of here. Now in Italian, that's the same word, right? Andiamo. And I, being me, I was very carefully went over to them, careful to be obvious. I wasn't there for some other reason.
Right.
And I was just like, bonjour, and they were like, bonjour. Yeah. I was like, oh, okay, that's all I know. But it was great. And it was like, yes, I've been studying Italian for 70 days. Like, oh, good job. And that was that was an inspirational moment, right? I had this one student who unfortunately is leaving the school, but they just did a project about it was disability history of the U.S. and they could do anything they want. They could do I call it a boring paper, or they could do a public history project. And they decided what they wanted to do is look at women's beauty standards in the last 100 years.
Okay.
And they did. And they did it. They didn't just say, here's a paper about it. They made these, I have them in my office, these like jigsaw puzzle style boards. And you would see a picture, let's say Kate Moss. And there would be a portion that comes out like a jigsaw piece. And under there would be information or images related to personal cost of the beauty standards.
Oh, interesting.
So like corsets smush all your organs together.
Mm-hmm.
That's not the healthiest way for your organs to be.
Right.
So it impacts.
Right.
And I thought that was pretty inspirational, right? Because the student rather, it's unfortunate that they're leaving the school, but oh my gosh, like that, you did it.
Right.
Like that's exactly the power. Like they've embraced what this project could be. And I was there to help them, but I didn't say do this. They came up with that.
Right.
And to see that, that's not just learning, that's application of learning. And even more than that, I don't know the word, teaching others. And that's fantastic.
Yeah.
And that can never, ever, ever happen if you say, oh, come on.
Yeah.
Oh, that's just the future. That's just fantasy. That's just fiction. Star Trek. Oh, they don't have race-based discrimination. That's just stories. Well, yeah, I know it's stories, but that's all we got.
Yeah. I don't know how to end this,
Right?
but it's funny how it all relates. It all is this human experience, and making it that much more impactful for students and teachers to learn and to teach and to both be inspired by each other, as you clearly were by your student. I mean, I think it's a mutually beneficial relationship between the two groups, and it's really special.
Yeah, I've had moments. I was looking at social media memories the other day, and I've at some point I wrote something like, I remember being in grad school, and occasionally, not when I was talking, but other people looking around, and I would see the professors would always. It was almost always this pose. They'd be sitting with their legs crossed in a chair. They have their hands behind their heads like this, with their arms and elbows up, and sitting back and just sort of taking it all in. And I never understood that pose. And you know what? It's funny because I noticed that at my job interview, my little practice teaching lesson thing, I saw the guy that interviewed me was making that pose. And in the classroom, maybe 3 or 4 years ago, I noticed myself doing it. And what I was doing was watching an excellent student presentation where they clearly understood the material and took it a step further. It wasn't just, you're repeating what I've told you. But no, you're taking it further than I could have. I would have thought to do. And I think that's what comedy does too, right?
Yeah.
Good comedy is, oh, I know all those words. I could have said those things, but I didn't. And I would have never thought to do that. Like, do you have a favorite joke or anything?
Oh God, don't ask me to tell jokes, because I'm terrible at it. No, I'm uncomfortable. Okay, Ryan. But
What do you know? You're right. Well, here, this won't help. So here, this is a good, I don't know if this is a good wrap it all up, but so in the new book, Joke Farming by Elliot Kalin, he's a podcaster, he's a writer, he's a comedy writer. He was the head writer for The Daily Show for many years. He's got this new book called Joke Farming. And he uses this one joke as an example, and it's about Star Wars.
oh, cool.
So he says, and he uses it as the example. I'll tell it and I'll explain how he uses it. So he says, so I have a child. He does. He's like, now his son might be 10. He says, I have a child. And I know you're wondering, you look at me, I'm skinny, I'm whatever. How did that happen? And he says, well, it's a lot like Star Wars. I don't know okay, let me edit this for appropriateness. This is a lot like Star Wars. The whole time, as while my wife and I were engaged in the practice of lovemaking, um, just like when Luke was going down to find the target on the Death Star, I just stayed focused, and I just had the voice of an elderly man in the back of my mind, giving me guidance the whole time. I probably messed the joke. That's the gist.
I'm guessing it was stay on target. It was,
You can do it, Elliot.
yeah. Use the force.
Of course, exactly. And when he breaks it down, when he breaks the joke down, he says, okay, now listen, what's funny there? Is it the fact that I would have a child? Maybe. But you don't expect the Star Wars metaphor. And you especially don't expect. And then I had an old man encouraging me the whole time. That's the extra step beyond the expectation. And well, but certainly I can think of an old man. I can think of an old man giving words of wisdom, giving advice.
Sure.
Right? And you want that sometimes.
Sometimes.
Right. But then this was super on point a few minutes ago. Oh, I forget. This is what, if this happened in class, here's what I would do. What do you think I was trying to say, Nico? What do you think the point of that story was?
Well, it was apparently to wrap everything up in a nice little bow. I don't know.
I think it was this. It was that each of the concepts in that joke are things that we all know and we're familiar with. We're familiar with all that old men exist. They might give advice. But when you throw them together like this, like the comedian did, like the joke did, that's new and novel.
Right.
And unexpected. And if you were just like, I'm uncomfortable with the subject matter and I'm not going to listen anymore, whether you like the joke or not, you're done.
Yeah.
Like,
you don't get to be part of that experience.
You don't get to be part of that experience. You don't get to laugh or learn.
Right.
At all.
Yeah.
It may be not for you. And that's okay. I tell the classes, I tell my students, like, you do not need to agree with this stuff. I am not here to convince you. I'm here to tell you these ideas, these stories are out there. Use them or don't. And like that joke, tell it or don't. You don't have to laugh at it. I mean, unlike, I keep wanting to say Mr. T, but it's Andrew Dice Clay.
Right.
You don't have, it might not be safe to leave the room, but you don't have to laugh. Right?
Yeah.
And so while comedians are skilled negotiators of the space and the atmosphere, you don't have to worry that they're going to make you laugh.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Or else.
I
don't know.
So you know what the music means. I don't know.
Oh, yeah. This has been a Crip Campus and Play to Learn.
Yeah, mashup. Yeah, I should mash up. There we go.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't have like a grand wrap-up idea. Do you?
No, I don't, because, and you know what? It doesn't have to. We leave it up to the audience. We're asking the audience, what do you think? Right?
Right?
Yeah. What do you audience think?
Now, there's a timeline in which I'm going to go home. But I can't believe I was like, I forget the point I was trying to make. What do you think? But there's also a timeline where I think, you know what, that's great. That's perfect. I remember years ago, I was giving a conference paper and I forgot the plot of a book. It was The Planet of the Blind. That's not what it's called. The sci-fi story, the sci-fi fantasy story about the guy that goes to the Valley of the Blind and he's a sighted person and everyone's like, what do you mean you hear the light effectively? And I completely forgot the plot of the story mid-presentation. And I just sort of said, you know what, I don't remember all the details right now, but what I want you to remember, or what I want you to know, is this. And I remember afterwards, my friend and mentor said, not everyone could have pulled that off.
That was a good save.
Yeah.
It was a good save.
Yeah. Yeah. Is that not comedy or improv at the set too?
Yeah, 100%.
I mean, we don't talk about it. We do not talk about it like that. That's the next thing is I want to get into not just comedy but improv, because I think that's teaching
Yeah, 100%.
and learning,
Mhm.
right? Well, we'll save that for next time.
Yeah, I think there has to be a next time.
Yeah, that's cool.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Ryan.
Absolutely.
Looking forward to the next time.
Me too.